Hey guys, so today I thought I just wanted to do a video about kind of what to do when you get stuck. I think we've all had art block at some point. Um, Sometimes it's easy to push past, sometimes it's not. I actually wrote down 3 specific ideas for this video, and then once I sat down, I came up with a whole lot more. So this is probably going to be done in parts because nobody wants a 3-hour long video on this, but I'm going to do the first 3 that I originally came up with, and then later on I'll go back to some of the others that I came up with. So sometimes when you're stuck, I think a lot of it is because we're just sort of stuck in our own head. And a lot of these are just sort of about letting go, about just kind of putting color down and letting it do what it needs to do, or taking the thinking out of it. So the first thing that I have discovered that helps for me is some abstract work. You can pick colors that you want. You can do this with mixed media. You can do it with one. You can do it really whatever you want. In this case, there's some gel pen, there's some acrylic ink, there's some watercolor, that kind of thing. You don't have to lay anything out in a grid pattern. There are no rules here. That's something I think that really flows well with abstract, is the fact that there's no rules and you can just feel it out. I will say that there's a little more thought, maybe, or I don't know, intuition maybe is a better word for me when it comes to abstract. It's hard to know, I guess, when to leave it be. I'm a fiddler by nature, so when to leave it be and just kind of let it stand, or when to keep going. So uh, a lot of respect to the abstract artists out there, because it's not quite as simple as just throwing stuff on a page and making it cohesive. So I did this one. Oh gosh, I don't think I put a date on it, and really enjoyed it, had fun with it. I had just picked some colors initially that I liked. A lot of times for stuff like this, I will pull out the stuff that I kind of have like pre-made, that I've used for other projects, or sometimes I'll pull out a color. Like this is the ultramarine ash from Winsor Newton, that I was like, oh hey, I haven't used this in a while, or I want to, or whatever, and I'll stick it in a palette like this. So a lot of times I use stuff like this just to clear out palettes. If I've got a lot of paint left or whatever, then for me this is just a really easy way to do that, and it can produce some really neat results. I actually really like how this one came out. I did this one actually earlier today. I didn't wait long enough to pull the tape off, and I did tear it, but such is life. This was a lot of different things. I actually had gouache in here, and the Neocolor 2s, and let's see, the black is acrylic ink. There's some silver acrylic ink. So I was just kind of fiddling. I also just didn't want a regular grid, so I came in at an angle. The cool thing about doing the abstract is you can do a grid. You can do this however you want. It's up to you. There's nobody that tells you, hey, it's abstract, it has to be this way. I did this one. I guess when I finally got the art room set up in the new place, I did this one. So, again, sometimes it's just about getting the color down and kind of getting into a flow state, and, just laying it down and getting started. And I think that sometimes abstract stuff like this really helps you get started. So yeah, give it a try. Like I said, you don't have to use a grid. You can lay it out however you want. You can, if you've got circles or something that you've got pre-made or whatever, and you want to lay those down, by all means do it. Do mixed media abstract stuff if you've got it. I mean, I think most of us have markers and colored pencils and watercolor paints, and I've got some gouache now, and just stuff. You can use anything on this. And if you've got supplies that you haven't used, then by all means toss those in and do that. Lay down some masking fluid if you'd like. to create maybe some of your lines and come up with stuff like that. So, abstract, I think, is just a good way to kind of get a flow state. And sometimes that's just what we need. We need a good flow state. So my second thing is to follow a tutorial. And you can do this a lot of different ways. You can go online and do tutorials. You can use a book. You can do, whatever floats your boat. I've kind of hit a point now where I like to look at some of my tutorial books, for instance, and look at the final image that they give you, and then see if I can recreate it without actually following the instructions. Sometimes I do a really good job and sometimes not so much. But again, it kind of gives me something to focus on, and I'm not having to make the decisions of the colors to use or the subject or the background or anything like that. It really kind of frees up your mind to just put your paint down. And I think that's the big thing. And it's something that, for me, helps get me started. Occasionally I'm stuck just because I don't know what to put on paper. Executive dysfunction is real, and sometimes you just have to get past that. And so for me, that's actually a decent way to do that. So the other thing that I want to bring up today is to go back to something you first painted. For me, it was Andrea Nelson's jellyfish tutorial. I looked, I do not apparently have that anymore. Unfortunately, it has apparently wandered off somewhere. But I do have a couple that I did after that I still kind of did in the same time frame. So I started at the beginning of September in 2024. This one's 18th September 2024. So not too long after I started. I actually really love to paint jellyfish. I could probably paint jellyfish every day and be very happy doing it. So, if you've got a subject like this or something that you did first that you really enjoyed or caught your attention, then go back and do it again. You don't have to paint something completely different every time. And for most things, if you paint it again, it is going to be different. You're not going to completely recreate what you did the first time. That's okay. That's, you may have learned a new technique. You may have learned a little more control over something, whatever. Just give it a go. I tried this one, actually, same day. I probably did them together. I don't remember. I wanted to do kind of a different angle, and I wasn't as successful as I wanted to be. I think just perspective wise, I'm a little off, and that's fine. But, just again, lay some paint down. I frequently, actually, I won't say frequently, I very often will go back and paint jellies. If I feel like I haven't painted in a while and I just want something to paint, this was 6 months later or so. This was in February of last year. And then I actually decided to try a different way of doing the jellies and laid down water for some of this first and kind of came back in, and then it didn't quite go like I wanted. I don't think this paper was quite as good for this as I had hoped. But I gave it a go, and I could see the difference between them, that kind of thing. So doing something like this is actually kind of fun. And, how can you recreate that thing that you really like to do in a little different way? And I feel like that helps to open up those creative channels too. So again, you don't have to recreate it perfectly. You don't have to, none of this has to be perfect. We have to get past the mindset that A, it has to be perfect, or B, it has to be something you can sell. Because for the majority of us, we're not selling anything. So just get that out of your head and take some steps to just get started. Because I know in a lot of cases, especially if you have executive dysfunction, the getting started part is really the hard part. So, these 3 things, like I said, abstract, go follow a tutorial. If you want simple tutorials, Rebel Unicorn Crafts is fabulous. Andrea Nelson, obviously, I adore. She's really my big inspiration for even why I got into watercolor. But there are hundreds, if not thousands, of tutorials on YouTube right now. Go pop one of those up, pick one randomly, and just do something out of your comfort zone. And then, going back to something that you've painted before that you just really enjoyed. For me, it's jellyfish. I was just thinking the other day, you know what? I haven't painted jellyfish in a while. I really kind of want to paint some jellyfish. So I will probably do that at some point. But try those things and see if they help you get out of that art block. Hopefully they will. If so, then please let me know and, comment down below. Again, thank you for anybody who has followed me over here after the chaos of the Just Paint fiasco. I don't even know what to call it at this point, other than a headache. But anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Go out there, just paint something, and I will see you later.